Okay, so I guess it's time to start, so no more waiting for you. And first of all, welcome to our webinar. And today we will be covering all the details about advanced use of Eylean board. I hope most of you are familiar with the methodologies and practices that are called Agile and Lean, so for their frameworks, Scrum and Kanban. And if you're not, we will try to make it as simple to understand as possible. But there will be lots of phrases and keywords which I will sometimes explain, and if I miss, just ask me a question. There's a question toolbar on the webinar tool, and during the presentation put your questions over there, and maybe in the end or on the go, if I see them, I will answer them. So being said that, let's dig into our Eylean insights. So the first thing every project and every team comes in is a backlog management, is a project planning, and the whole thing that is related to your scope, to your work effort, scoping, slicing of scopes, and different views, different methods, how you can fill in and then review that effort. So in Eylean, there's the basic concept of having a workspace which can contain boards. So those boards represent logical steps or phases of your process, and in there you contain work items. Work items of any item type you like. For Scrummers, there are user stories, epics, tasks. There are also impediments, bugs, and so on. But basically, all the work items can have the same stuff, each one of them, and you fill in your board with those work items, and then your goal is to move them from left to right. And the first problem that some of you might have even encountered already is the amount of work items you have on one board, or amount of work items you need to put on one board and still make it visible, transparent, and usable. So I will offer a few different techniques how we can split those items in different scopes. So the first and the most basic scope splitting technique in Eylean is splitting in rows. As in here, we have a row which is called Sprint 1. I chose a Scrum, more of a Scrum approach, as it's more of a trend now. So I will talk more about this. And if you have some sort of ideas about other methodologies, as I said, hit me on those questions, and I will try to explain everything in other methodologies as well. So rows, let's get back to them. In Eylean, you control your scope by just seeing which rows are possible by viewing and which ones are hidden, simply hidden for later use, or they're already done. But you can always control the scope and make sure your board is as compact as it is for the current period, current sprint, current iteration. You don't want to see too many items. So you can always move items between those rows, and for instance, there are items that won't make into the sprint. I can just move them into the next sprint, and then when I don't need it, I can hide it. But rows often creates this scope removal, adding, and interaction active, and not a very convenient way of doing different scope slicing. So the other part of it is slicing by boards. In here I have 3 different boards. One is for epics. So here we put a really large scale items. It's more of a ideas, more of a categories of our project. In here we have a website which is a simulation of a website which is for order management, where customers can come in, pick some sort of items and order them and get delivered, and they will get the delivery at some point of time. So there are epics, top level items which can be split into user stories. So we have a one board where we plan something, we have a backlog of ideas, then we elect them, we prioritize, and eventually when we're ready at planning, we have user stories which are already split in here, but I can say, okay, we have another epic ready. We have an epic of order management, and let's split it into user stories. So, for instance, as a customer, I need to be able to choose items for my order. All right, so we split this. Let's type in one more. As a manager, I want to see customer orders. And when we split the epic, we can move those user stories into our development board. Epic goes into parking, and here on we work on user stories. Our team pulls items in the sprint. If those user stories come in sprint planning, it's fine. Let's do it in sprint 1. If we're doing sprint planning for the future, we can just get back to our sprint number 2 in scope and move those for the future use, and then stick to the sprint 1. Now, in this slicing, you have a different board for top-level items. You decouple those items, slice them in smaller pieces, and then you move them through the boards. By the way, in the latest version of Eylean, we included a feature where you can move the whole item with sub-items, like this epic with user stories, so you can produce it in the other board. But in this demo, my approach in logical way should not allow moving epic into development, because it's more of a category, it's more of a container, and we're working on user stories. So let's stick to those. And when we're finishing items, there will also be a lot of stuff parking in the output section. We will be finishing one by one. The testers will put them there, and well, in the end, it will pile up, really big pile of items, and then we will need to still contain those details, but we will not want to see them on our board. So yet again, we create another board which is more of an archive, and we just move those items which are finished. We can have the same sprints in here if we're willing, or just a small board for all the items, nonetheless without importance to which sprint they belong. It's up to you to choose. As I've said, want some sprints in there? Let's have them. So we will be able to put items on sprints in the done section. So in Eylean, you have a total freedom how you want to slice your data. And basically, the approach of the boards works in most cases the best way, because it gives you a clean overview of different item sizes. So as in here, epics, smaller user stories, and it can give you a cleaner overview when you want to archive items. Like in most tools, there's also, you don't delete items. In Eylean you can, by the way, you just can, like this, I've deleted an item, but as a manager, I want to see the items, to see the history of those. For instance, later on I can check the changelog, what has been done on that particular item, which teammates worked on this, and this gives me great insights. So I want to keep those items in my archive or some sort of a place. So multiple boards, really good for this approach. A different technique for multiple boards could be applied through a bucket system. I've already presented this in one of our Scrumban based webinars, and this comes from Scrumban itself, where you have an order of boards, and those boards contain different scopes of time. And by different scopes of time, I mean there could be like 3-month period, 6-month, and 12-month, 1 year. And those boards define the size of an item. So in 1 year perspective, we can have ideas. They could be called ideas. So this should be something like we should produce more sales, and this is our goal, and we can split it into ideas and move it to 6-month iterations. So we pick this board up. We can have additional columns right here just to show a splitting. Sorry, I need to okay, I will need to make another section for splitting. split items, let's call it like this, and let's say this idea. Okay, sorry, this is a goal, this one will be for ideas. Let's say it can contain subtasks, and now I put this item in here and we decide how we should produce more sales. We pick our strategies or ideas or techniques, strategy 1 and so on. 2. Now we're close to the 3-month plan. We know that we can put those items and they're already at the normal size of an item that can be worked on. And whenever we are empty of items in our backlog, whenever we're finished with the current amount, we can move them into development. And in the development we choose. Either we work on these particular items or we even slice them up, as in most examples I am showing. So once more, let's just create slicing in here. You see, it's really easy in Eylean to create different scopes by slicing items in sub-item level and top-level items. In Eylean you have this first column. In most cases there's a section. This thing is called a section. Section is a group of columns, and those columns represent top-level items. But in this particular section, which is called work in progress, I've put an option which is called use subtasks. And this option defines that the first column is reserved for top-level items, and all the other columns which I will create, for instance, let's name them to do and done. I have 2 columns now in sub-level, and then I can work on those items separately without interacting with this one. It's my top-level item. And whenever I'm finished, I just complete the item, and you see those are collapsed. If it's back, they're expanded. So Eylean contains the simplicity by keeping as less information as possible on the board until you need it. So you always have an option to choose whether you want that particular information or not. If you're not all about those smaller items, then you can just skip this step and still use it with the bigger item. And the smaller items will be able, like in a checklist approach, like here, and we will be able to see which ones are done, which ones are not, and subtask details will just provide us information, what's our progress. So this is another approach, buckets. And buckets works really well if you have a strategic approach. Then you have more of a technical ideas and how things can get implemented. Then you go really technical, how stuff should be done. This is already similar to sprint planning, iteration planning, and the development. It's a production line. It's our conveyor of items which needs to be produced by our team. And here we need to contain items which are really carefully described. They contain all the information necessary so that people could grab them and complete them. So that's pretty much about the slicing of the boards and scopes. Now we could move on to the really often problem that people encounter is recurring items. For instance, in our company we could be doing a process that requires some sort of a recurring routines to happen every month. So I could have a board which contains rows and they're aligned to months, exact months. For instance, now we're on November, October is past, so we can just hide it, and now we're working on November. And each start of the month we need to do some particular work. Now the first approach could be done through having another board which serves just a placeholder, and it can contain work items that are recurring each month. So for instance, each month we can calculate our budget, right? So our result will be calculated budget, the number of finance we have available, and this will be going each month by month. So I can copy this item, simply just hit copy, and whenever I need to input somewhere, I just paste it in there, and I can do it at this particular time or whenever we come for a new month. Let's say it will be 2015 January. I will always be able to refer to my placeholder with configured items. I can have a very different item, for instance, team meeting. We can do it also, okay, let's do it like retrospective. It's more for the scrummers. So if our sprints are a month long, we will be doing retrospective meetings to review the work, review the progress, and see what can be improved. And this stuff will happen each end of the sprint, and we can put some information in it. We can have like a plan, what we need to talk about progress. We can talk about, for instance, things that can be improved, and we have this item as a template, and once more, we just copy it over and use it anywhere we like. So it's just duplication of the stuff. The other approach could be exporting items into some sort of a file, supported by Eylean, of course. And let's say we choose XML format. We choose to save it as recurring each month items. Okay, I have my file exported. And for instance, let's say we create a new month, which will be 2015 February. Let's hide some of the old months. And now I want to start my month. I want to import the items that are recurring. And okay, sorry, it was imported into my first month right here. And each time I do this, let's see how it's imported, because Eylean always picks the mapping. If the item belongs to the particular row, it will pick up in the mapping and add those items to the particular row. So it's just a working scenario. So whenever I create a month, I get those items from my file. And this doesn't restrict you of getting any sort of configuration. You can have like hundreds of items already predefined in some sort of a template, and you export those and you can save them on your computer, and those are saved in all sorts of formats. One is XML. Well, it's quite readable for a human, and of course there is a CSV format for Excel users where you can even define your items in Excel. You don't need Eylean, and then you can later import them from Excel. So it's that easy to work with recurring items. Now there are other really good ways how to produce those items, and you can even produce your own template. Like you can save your board. Let's say you have lots of projects and you like to do the slicing. Each project contains its own board. So that's really easy in Eylean. Let's say we have this board. Let's personalize it a little bit, and let's add doing column 2. Let's add some sort of a QA section, QA, which will contain a testing step, and this will be our personalized board. So we want to save it. We go to configure, we save this board as a template. Let's say revise default project, right? Sorry, there are typos. Default project, and let's just save it. So each time our managers starts a new project, they can pick this template up and reuse it. So you define a process at some particular time, and it's a one-time operation. Later on, you just pick the template and you create it for the project. That's it. You have the very same template. There are no items, yes, but template is all about structure. The structure of a board. The items comes in from our file, which is still in here. That's it. This is how you can manage your recurring work. Okay, now there is one question. I will quickly answer it because it's related to the export. So the question sounds like, I believe exports do not include the comments in the tasks. Is that true? Is there a way to include the comments in the export? Yes, you're totally right. Eylean currently do not export comments, but it's in our pipeline. We're planning to implement that in the near future, and it will be available to export comments in CSV format at first, and later on we will move to the next format types. But currently, there is no way to export comments. So, okay, I hope I did answer this question. Let's move on. There are other quite often daily routines that can happen in Eylean, and they need to be really comfortable. So as from my experience, and there are quite a few clients which uses time tracking really actively in Eylean, like there is this one company which generates probably like half of the amount of interactions among the other customers compared, and they're doing really active time tracking. They have lots of employees who do time-based hour build projects, and they need to best match their people to particular areas of business, and they often use our daylog and active time tracker. Maybe you're familiar with it. If not, I will just quickly explain. You just simply drop your tasks on it, it starts tracking time. And whenever you've finished, you just stop it. If you're away from your computer for a away period of time, which can be configured in user screen, it now is bound to 5 minutes. So if I'm away for 5 minutes, it will detect that I'm away and pop up the window saying, where are you? Was it a break or was it a task-related stuff? So you're quite safe about it by just missing to stop and log your time consumptions. But there are other ways how you can do it in Eylean. As for myself, I'm not all about active time tracking. I'm more of a hourly based tracking on passive way. If I work at some particular tasks, I can often refer to Eylean. It's minimized in most of the time. I just maximize it and click +1. That's it. Really simple click. I work for 1 hour, and it's a good practice. You work for 45 minutes or 1 hour, and then you do a really short break to stretch your eyes and get off the computer. So that's it. You just maximize it, click +1, and it's really simple. And you won't refer to the active time tracker. You won't be missing something, because if you forgot to add it, you can add it whenever you want. You just, okay, I need to add a few more, just 2 hours, and that's it. This is how it works in Eylean. Of course, there is the third way, which offers you the whole management of the active time. You can change something if you forgot. For like 2 days ago, I forgot that I was working on a particular task for a few hours. All right, I can change that. It's not a problem. And this often keeps us the opportunity to add items on the page. Well, some of you might think that, okay, this can allow cheating on time if we're tracking our teammates, and well, it's up to team culture, but if you're really about this cheating stuff, then you should work on your meetings and say for the guys, okay, track it and be really honest about it, because it's money and because it's time of company. So that's about the culture. We keep freedom, and by this freedom you can choose all the different ways you can accomplish your goals. So this is what we really focus on Eylean, and this is what's really cool and trending now. It's all about experience and the comfort of yourself. Now, the whole time tracking thing, it's valuable when it has some sort of analysis and reports. And in Eylean, this is present as well. I will just open quickly more of a workspace with more data, which we could refer for the reporting. And let's open our reporting section. The first thing in here you see will be a dashboard, a quick overview, what's going on, how much time there's tracked, what's the progress and item count, and well, lots of other metrics by teammate, by by complexity by estimation, it's up to you if you're using story points or estimation by hours. And in here, you can move into really detailed metrics. So the first one we encounter is cumulative workflow diagram. It's a thing that comes from Kanban. In short, in abbreviated mode, it would be CFD, and it shows us our speed, how much items we produce day by day. And in here we can see, let's say there's this red line, which is our capacity, and we can always see like days. Let's say we produced from day 25 to day 27 amount of free items. Why free? Because there was 15 items in production, 14 completed, and then we had 18 items. Okay, sorry, my math's really bad. There were 4 items completed because 14 on day 25 and 18 on day 27. So we produced 4 items in those 4 days. And this capacity shows you what's the gap between having started an item and having finished an item. And by this you will always see the speed of your team and the capacity. Well, down the mountain. Down the mountain should not occur in most processes. In this here we have a demo where we just removed some items right there. We just removed them from the board. That's why the number got lower. But always we have this streaming, and you see now when it comes to an end of it was an end probably of a release. We had to release something and we were working, and you can see the traditional approach, lazy workers, it getting stressful, and now it's close to the deadline and we even cope with more stuff at the end. So totally traditional. Then we start working on probably some bugs or other stuff, commands, and then it's yet again calm process. Then it gets really big, but that's because we had additional resources incoming who could help us and cope with more effort. And well, this is how this red line can be used. And the blue one represents the total of work items available, and the green one presents the items completed. So, well, I hope that's quite informative for you. There are also a few different modes by tasks. You can use it by complexity points. Sadly, we aren't doing estimation by complexity points in here. So, but it will be the very same CFD, the very same graph, just referring not to item count but to complexity points like user story points or any different sizes you have. Now the burn down. The burn down is for all the scrummers. It's really pretty much the same, but it shows 2 different timelines, chart lines. It shows actual work, the capacity we are having at the moment of items remaining, and it shows a cumulative line, which says how much items in total were added to the board and what's the current situation of items remaining. Because you see in here, the green line shows how many items we have at the particular day, but it's not cumulative. So it shows, for instance, it doesn't show, for instance, if we had increase of items that day. Like you see, there are days of where the item count isn't changing a lot. Let's say, for instance, let's scroll a bit. Like here, we have 14. For 4 days, there are no changes. But if we see the blue one, there are still some changes, because the blue one shows the cumulative value. So you can always identify when your process is stalling or your process is increasing its velocity. The blue one is for that metric. And of course, Eylean calculates average velocities through weeks, so you will have some automated insights about your speed. Track time, here it goes in our time sheets, and here you can produce billing sheets for your customers. You can review your teammates, or you can just calculate how much hours were spent on particular tasks by particular people on particular days. It's up to you. How do you filter those items? Now, lead and cycle time, it's pretty much the same thing that CFD is all about, but it gives the exact time each work item took to be delivered. So we can see our average value. it takes this much for us to get item into planning and then to deliver it to customer. And this is our particular items. Right, some item took like 300, oh my god, this one was really huge. This item took so much time. And this shows us problems where some items might lie a little bit on the planning phase and they aren't getting nowhere. And this shows us that there are scope creeps, that there are dead items which needs to be groomed, and this always encourages the team to keep the backlog clean and to work on items that are really important and the most important. That's for sure. And lead time shows the metric from the time the item was created until the item was delivered. Cycle time shows when the item was started until it was finished. By started, I mean it got into development, production, or something like that. It just came from planning to work in progress phase. So this is often shorter, and in this classical sample we could just look like we can just look at it like in our work in progress. We see that we take so less time compared to the lead time, and in most of companies then you could say, okay, we have problems in our delivery, in our planning phases, and we need to work on those. We don't need to work on our work in progress. And the final reports are the distribution of those metrics. So we can identify which are the most average metrics of our items, and we can identify items which takes really way too much time, and maybe see if the problem is in the item scope, if the problem is in item size, or it's other problems related to our process or team members. So these are analytics, and they produce way more stuff that I already told you. You just can try to identify value yourself by just picking one of those reports, and for instance you can measure the gaps between releases and sprints and see how those gaps fill in with increasing items. In sprint you cannot add new items, but in some Scrum bots, as it's called, for people who do Scrum in partial way, not all the methodologies implemented, so they tend to input new items during the sprint. So you can see if your actual item count is increasing or staying the same, stalling, then you're doing a bad practice. You're adding items during the sprint or during the iteration. So there are lots of insights, as I told you. And the last thing I want to talk about is permissions. Well, as Eylean is lots about freedom, the tools still have some abilities to restrict people, and there are a few of those. It's not a really visual thing about permissions, so I'll just pick up our help section where we will show you a really simple table, and it says which permission, which action can be performed by particular user. So there are two layers of Eylean permissions. One layer is a server layer, so it can restrict from connecting to a server, creating workspace, deleting workspace, viewing of workspace, user administration, and so on. So it's more about administrative management permissions, and they are defined by server configuration. And well, it really works well if you have different departments on the same Eylean server, and you don't want for particular departments to see other departments' work. So you enable those server permissions, and only people who are team members of a team or administrators of particular workspace will be able to see it and manage it. Now, if you want to have more detailed permissions in team level, you can have reader and writer options for the particular team members. You just turn those permissions on workspace and you choose which team members can edit the workspace or which ones are just an observers. And by observers, it could be a case of clients that also want to see the progress, but you do not want to interact with your items or team members. So you keep them out of the reading permission or writing permission, and you can even hide them from a team. They can be like dark management, which is not seen but sees everything. So is that simple with Eylean? And this is all about permissions. We don't provide a really detailed permissions on feature level, but we do provide writer-reader permissions and workspace access and workspace viewing permissions. So it's quite enough for modern and communicative teams to manage their work and still keep the culture of constraining some actions, like you do not cheat on time, you don't delete items if they are not the ones you want to do, and so on. But we leave it to the culture of a team. And this was pretty much it of the overview in our Eylean feature set, according to scope slicing, workflows, time tracking, report analysis. And there are way more stuff in there, but if you're already using, I hope you got some fresh new ideas how you could implement new practices in Eylean. And for those who are just seeing how Eylean works, if you have questions, now is the time to write them down in the question bar, and we will have some time for the answers. So thank you very much for watching us, and keep tuned for the other upcoming webinars. Okay, question about abilities to import from different sources. So, yep, Eylean offers additional tools, not Excel only or XML. You can have import from Microsoft Project as well if you're using it for some sort of a planning, scheduling your project. You can import it through MS Project XML file, and all the items will be converted into Eylean tasks containing assigned resources and descriptions and other available information. And also, if you're using Outlook clients, you can just drag and drop emails from the client and also keep everything in one place so you don't miss something. So Eylean is all about simplicity and comfort, where you don't need lots of tools to control different actions. You just put everything in one place and then you work on it. So, well, I hope I did show you what was related to the question, and maybe more questions. And if not, I will be able to offer you my contact. Let's just open the pad. I forgot to make a small slide, but it would be like vidas@eylean.com. If you ever have some questions, just write me in this email. And just to remind us, our website, you can find lots of cool stuff in there. You can download Eylean, you can see the features which are described in detailed feature sets by areas. For instance, if you're about DFS or you're willing to see how Eylean customizes DFS integrations, you can find all the information necessary out there. So if no more questions, then we will finish this up. And as I told you, glad to see you here, and I hope to see you now next webinar. So have a nice day. Bye.